floodgates, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I'm going to text Brad and see if he can join.
Gosh,
Never think it works.
Oh gosh.
It's all fun and games, isn't it?
It is.
We've got a few people coming in already.
All the attendees are going up.
Well, at least we know it's working. I guess that's the main part.
But what, they can't hear us at the moment, can they?
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm going to leave this to you guys. I'm going to mute myself. It's really surreal, just sat here waiting. Just so everyone's aware who's tuning in now, this is Zoom webinar, which, funny enough, I had to watch a webinar called How to Use Zoom Webinar. And it was a Zoom webinar about Zoom webinar, which is interesting. But just so everyone's aware on this, there's probably maybe some technical difficulties at some point. This whole coronavirus thing has made people do things they wouldn't normally do. So obviously trying a webinar is one of those things. So just bear with if anything dramatic happens. When do you guys want to crack on? Because it's 5:30 now. The numbers are obviously still going. We've still got people coming in. Should we leave it 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think we should, because I think there was over about 118 people signed up. So.
Okay. That's another thing that I'm going to find really interesting, actually, because we've done quite a few live events, and normally the drop-off rate for a live event is really quite high, because obviously someone, the baby starts crying, or the weather changes, or whatever, something life happens, right? It'd be interesting to see what the disparity between signing up for a webinar and turning up is versus a live event and turning up.
Yeah.
I was speaking to some people who own some theatres, and they're talking about during the Corona lockdown running a virtual theatre and selling tickets through that. So they still use the production, still use the theatre itself, but it's all streamed, and they sell tickets like through Zoom or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to. I mean, the problem is obviously a lot of people just lock their business in lockdown. What can they do?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
The 53.
Whenever I start doing things, I always prepare with drinks. I have like 3 different drinks around. I've got a cup of tea, got some fancy smoothie because I'm on some sort of detox. This whole current thing. We're all number one fitness freaks now, aren't we? And I've got a massive bottle of water.
I've just got my bottle of water. Just well, I don't drink tea. I'm one of those. I just don't drink it. But however, coffee. I do like a bit of coffee.
I watched. Has anyone seen Masterclass? Have you seen Masterclass.com? The adverts are everywhere.
No.
No. So Masterclass, one of the biggest spenders of advertising at the moment, and they're basically everywhere. They're they'll get like Howard Schultz, who's like this CEO of Starbucks, and he'll talk about how he's grew his business, and it's like a 29-minute series. It's about 100 quid for the whole lifetime plan. But I was watching Howard Schultz, how he built Starbucks, and the differences of how he went to China, and the cultural change and all these differences and stuff. And halfway through it, it was like an ad. It was really weird. It's like an advert where he got like a French press out, and he was like, every morning I have a French press, and I use this bean. It was like some Starbucks bean. And I was just like watching. It's like, what's going on there? Anyway, I went to Amazon. I bought a French press, and I bought some. So I was completely manipulated by this advert halfway through this class. Bought myself a French press. So now I'm having French press every morning, which that's my new kick off for the day. That's my Corona change.
Wow. I did buy some Starbucks coffee pods for my machine, but it doesn't sound as fancy as yours.
Oh, it's not that fancy, don't worry. Right, we'll give it a couple more minutes, guys, just to make sure that everyone who's coming in can come in.
Okay.
Charlotte's just messaged me and said we're good to start.
Cool.
So whenever you want to go.
Okay, so hello everyone and welcome. So Karen and I are going to kick things off. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the productivity programme. So Karen and I are business development officers for the industrial partnerships team at the University of Lincoln. So we predominantly deliver the productivity programme, which is a 3-year programme which is funded by the European Regional Development Fund. So this is designed to enable SMEs who are based in Greater Lincolnshire to do things differently through grant funding, business support and collaboration through our academics at the university. So predominantly the aims of the programme are to develop collaborations between businesses and the university, and then it's also to stimulate business innovation to maximise productivity. Now, there are a few eligibility criteria that need to be met to access the support through the programme, but these can be found on our website, which Karen will provide a link to at the end of this presentation. So Karen's going to talk about the grant funding and the academic expertise. So I'm going to do kind of the rest of the strands in quick brief overview of them. So internships, these are where if businesses are looking for a new graduate, so kind of a recent graduate that's graduated within 3 years, and you want to receive their support through, so some of ours have received support with social media because they just haven't got time, so they've got an intern from the University of Lincoln or any other university to provide that for them. So businesses can receive between £1,500 and £3,000 for 3 or 6 months of a graduate's time. Then we've got the specialist advisor support. So this is where businesses can access 12 hours free business support. So this can be through one-to-one advisors, or this can be through events, workshops, or seminars. Then we've got the Business Angel Network. So this one is where you can access our specialist advisor to support and work with through seeking equity, who are seeking equity investment funds, and we are on hand to support proposals and strategies to increase the investment opportunities for you. Then we've got the Growing Graduate Enterprise element, which is a business startup program, which is aimed at recent graduates. So we can support through coaching, mentoring, and they've also got access to a startup grant of £2,500. Now, Karen is going to talk about the grant funding and academic expertise now.
Okay, good afternoon everybody. So I'm first of all going to talk actually about the academic expertise, and this is what we call our productivity voucher. And what this basically does, it provides you access to the academic expertise at the university. And I think the best news is it's actually free for you. Now, of course, it isn't free, it's actually very expensive, but the great news is it's fully funded through the programme, so it doesn't actually cost you a penny. And what it's doing basically is giving you access of up to 20 days support of an academic's time, so that's the doctors, lecturers, professors at the university who can basically support you with a project where perhaps you lack the knowledge and expertise to get that project completed. So it's a brilliant collaborative partnership between you as a business and the university academics, because it gives the academic also the opportunity to use their knowledge and expertise actually in real life situations. So that's the productivity voucher. So a great way to actually get some support through the university. And just to give you really a couple of examples of the types of things that we've done in the past through the productivity vouchers. At the University of Lincoln, we've got lots of areas of expertise and different specialisms. So we've had a number of productivity vouchers that have gone through the School of Engineering. So things like engineering, computer modelling that perhaps you're not able to do in your own business, then we can support with that. We've had some things through the School of Design. So if you're trying to create a new product, but have got any design difficulties, then we can help with building a prototype of that new product through the School of Design. And a recent one that we've just had is actually through the School of Pharmacy, whereby we can do some product testing. So this was specifically around testing plant extracts, which will help to sort of aid crop production. So various different, all sorts of types of projects, and we've got all sorts of specialisms at the university. So the second one I'm going to talk to you about is the productivity grant. So that's a grant from £1,000 up to £10,000. So basically, if your project total is £10,000, we can fund £5,000. If your project total is £20,000, then obviously we can fund £10,000. Unfortunately, I'm afraid if your project's £30,000 total, we can only fund up to £10,000. So it is capped at that, and it's matched by you, the business, at 50%. And what can that grant cover? Well, it can cover all sorts of things. So it covers both capital and revenue costs. So it could fund small capital equipment, it could fund testing, development of new systems. So it's pretty open in terms of what it can fund. And again, just to sort of give you a couple of examples, just recently we had a business that were awarded the full £10,000 grant. That was to introduce augmented reality into their sales process. Now, I know augmented reality is not something new as such, but it was actually new within the sector of this business. So they were introducing a new service to the sector. Now, I know it's difficult times and you may not have £10,000 available, but again, just on the other end of the spectrum, we just awarded £1,400 to a small business who'd developed a new innovative bath product and had relatively good experience with sales online and with independent shops, and had interest from a wholesaler, but with the current equipment wasn't able to actually make the amount of product required to break into the wholesale market. So our productivity grant actually funded equipment which helped them automate their process so that they could produce enough to enter into a new market. So that's the productivity grant and the productivity voucher, so two great elements of support. What I also want to say is that the good news is, as far as application forms go, and some of you may have applied for other grants, then I'd say that actually our application process is relatively quick and relatively simple. And of course, the great benefit is you've got my lovely colleague Charlie and I that will guide you through the whole process in terms of getting the application completed. And what we do is we present it to a panel on your behalf, and panels take place monthly and a decision is actually made on the day. So it's really quite a quick process, and obviously we'll be happy to speak to you about any potential projects that you might feel actually hit the criteria. Just something that I saw a few of the businesses that had signed up for this, and I saw that some actually were not SMEs, so they're not eligible actually for the productivity programme. But for those of you who are larger companies, then as well, there are other funding opportunities within the University of Lincoln, which we'd be happy to talk to you about, which include things like the knowledge transfer partnerships, etc. So please feel free to get in touch. Of course, this is the bit that I like best, where I tell you how you can find out more about the programme and contact us. So our website is www.productivityprogramme.co.uk, and our email address is productivity@lincoln.ac.uk. And I like to do it the same as they do on Strictly Come Dancing and say, and I'll just say again, it's productivity@lincoln.ac.uk. So we'll be happy to answer any questions, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.
Karen, there's 3 questions that have come through. Do you want me to, should people email them across, or do you want to answer them now live? What's the best thing for you to do?
I can, I'm just having a quick look. I can answer them very quickly live if you're happy with that, Pete.
Go for it.
So the first one's that the grant offers 16 days in academics time. Yeah, we've actually just recently changed it. So at this moment in time, it can actually offer up to 20 days in academics time. A project that crosses over both engineering and design, could both departments of the university provide help under the voucher scheme? Yes, they could. It's not obviously 20 days per department, but between both departments you could, for example, access up to 10 days from engineering and up to 10 days from design, or something like that. So yes, that works. And could the 50% funding requirement for business be financed or using the bounce back loans announced by government? What we can, if you've got the money in your account, in your business account, then that money can be used to finance the 50%. Hope that answers it properly. So what we can't do is, you can't use anything by credits. You can't use other funding as a potential source of matching the 50%. It does need to be money that is in your bank account.
Awesome, that's all the questions there. Just for the record, for everyone moving forward, there's a Q&A box just on the, I think it's the middle of your panel. It might be different on my screen to yours. If you just click on that, you can put any questions in, and as they come through, we can jump in and answer them as we go. Is it over to me now, guys, or have you got anything else? Yeah,
it's
okay,
over
cool.
to you.
I'm gonna attempt to use this, so bear with. Right, can everyone see my screen? Anyone see it? Yeah, you're nodding. Good. Okay. Right. Okay. So what I basically was told to speak about during this is, at the moment we're going through a really, really crazy time. The debate for kind of different businesses is kind of what move they make next, how they can push forward, how they can kind of keep going as business as usual per se. And the reality is, I mean, as a MD for an SME, it's been really, really challenging to kind of keep business as usual. It's probably been the biggest shake to the business environment since a world war. They're predicting that the next recession could be like the Great Depression in 1929. So I think that when it comes for business as usual, we have to kind of look at that from a realistic perspective and say, look, we can try and act like it's business as usual, but the reality is we're going to have to do some things differently. We're going to have to innovate like we've never innovated before. And I've kind of created like this is a 3-part series. We've essentially got 3 sessions every Thursday, next 3 weeks at 1:30. The way we've planned this out essentially is to focus on this actual session today is all about what we have planned, what my real thoughts are, what the aspects we think we should move forward with. And then in terms of the next 2 sessions, the next one is about advertising, the changes in the advertising world, and what advertising techniques we believe are really working in the space that can really help you kind of develop your business. And then on the 3rd session, it's with our head of PR, Mike Shields. We're discussing public relations techniques and things you can really do without spending any money. The issue always with advertising is you've got to spend money to make money, right? And when it comes to PR, you can do a lot of things by just rolling your sleeves up, building some nice connections and relationships with journalists. and kind of pushing the mark forward. So that's kind of what we've got outlined for the next 3 days, three sessions, sorry. And what I would like to say is, just jump into the Q&A section. I'm going to keep flicking back to that every few slides just to see if there's any questions coming in. But just to kind of give you an introduction who I actually am. First of all, I want to apologise straight up and say I talk very, very fast. I really apologise. I always try and speak slower when I do speaking events, and I'm going to try and speak even slower during a webinar because I appreciate you can't kind of see my gestures, my movements, etc. So yeah, I speak very fast, so apologies about that. I'm also recording this session as well, so if you do want to have a follow-up, just email the guys at the productivity program and they can provide you with a video of this session so you can go over it again if required. So who am I? So I'm the managing director of Distract. We're an advertising agency, and we launched it about 4 or 5 years ago now, whilst I was a student at the University of Lincoln. We work with brands right across the UK, from the Royal National Institute for the Deaf, the UK Sepsis Trust, through to some online e-commerce businesses and some SMEs and startups. So we have a whole host of different brands we work with. And a reason I think that's really powerful and really beneficial for a conversation like this is that we have really seen every single market in this difficult time. We have event making companies who, clearly aren't doing particularly well right now. We have online cleaning brands who are doing incredible right now. We've seen the ups and the downs. We've seen how brands have pivoted their advertising and brands that have just had to, shut up shop. We work with a few gyms, and of course, gyms are on lockdown. So there's no point in us doing anything right now, we don't believe. So we've really seen a whole host of how different brands are going about this crisis. And obviously we've had to develop strategies really quickly to make sure we can kind of come off the back of this. Now, I'm just going to quickly check for any questions, see if anything's coming through. Okay, that's good. Perfect. Now, in terms of when it comes to these moments, we have massive, massive decisions to make. And I've been saying this a lot to business contacts, colleagues. You have two options during this mid-period of time. One option is to see it as a holiday. And I mean that in the best way. Put your feet up, put your slippers on. You can't do much right now. Relax. Have a 2-month break, reconvene at the end of it, furlough your staff, get the government grants in, lock the whole thing down. A lot of brands are calling that hibernation, putting their brand into hibernation. The other alternative is you can attack the scenario. A statistic that I've seen come up time and time again is that more millionaires are created in downturns than in upturns. And that's because opportunity is out there for people that want to go and get it. Now, I want to make it really clear. I'm not for 1 second looking down on people who are, feet up, slippers on, because, in some cases that actually might be the best idea for your business. Hibernate down, rest and recover and come out. And I've got some business contacts who have said, look, Pete, I'm using this as a holiday. I haven't had a holiday for years. The government's allowed me to have a break. I'm going for it. But most businesses aren't like that. Most businesses are saying, look, we want to attack. We want to go and grow market share, or we want to fight to maintain our market share. We want to come out of this in the right way. And when I was looking at kind of doing research for this presentation, I started looking at the brands that really dominated the last recession, the 2008. And the reason I'm relating this very much to a recession is because the only plausible way to look at what we have in front of us right now is to compare it to the effects of a recession. Now, yes, we've had 30% GDP drop in the UK. Yes, we're in lockdown. It's not like a recession. But one of the things I want you to understand is we have to try and take these learnings from somewhere. And Netflix during the 2008 financial crisis was a perfect example. Now, to give you an example of what happened for Netflix, I need to give you some key statistics. The key statistics are this. In 2006, Netflix had 6.3 million subscribers. And what Netflix essentially was they were a DVD rental service. So you would sign up, you'd choose your DVD, and they'd post it through the door. And in 2011, back end of all these crises, everything's kind of come back to normal. They had 24.6 million subscribers. So what actually happened for Netflix during this 5-year window, which completely changed their business and put them on a complete new roadmap? Now, what's really, really important is in 2007, Netflix invested 60% of their profit in creating what was called their Watch Now strategy. Their watch now strategy is essentially what you see today as Netflix online streaming. But in 2007, they went all out and spent all their profit basically on this Watch Now series. Now, when this came out and they released it in about 2010, what actually happened was they went to their consumers and they said, look, guys, we've got these two opportunities now. You've got the DVD rental service and we've got the Netflix streaming service. And what they did was they didn't just pass everyone across from the DVD rental to the streaming. They said, these are now two packages. To have the benefits of streaming, you have to now pay for streaming. They're not just moving you across. And it absolutely crucified their business. Their customers hated them. People were leaving them left, right, and center. And their share price dropped by 2/3. Their share price dropped by 2/3. You can kind of see that on the graph there, dropped by about 2/3. Now, what they did at this point, and it's still going today, it's called DVD.com. DVD.com is Netflix's postal rental business. You can still rent DVDs from Netflix. But it only takes, right, during that period of time, 2010, 2011, their share price is falling through the floor from this investment they made all these years earlier. It only took till today, when their share price is so much higher, to understand that if they didn't take that punt then, if they didn't take the risk during the adversity, their business would be like Blockbuster right now. If they still maintained with the DVD.com scenario, went down the route they did, hoarded their profits, never reinvested, they would be nowhere today. And it sometimes takes the bold decision makers, the big business owners, to say, look, I can foresee some issues right now. I can foresee in the next 5 years' time, this thing called the internet could come along and it could put us all out of business. And they planned that and they invested. And today Netflix is, if you need to look at how many users they have right now, it's incredible. This lockdown that's happening right now has doubled their user base. It's been incredible for them. I also want to discuss Apple. Now, Apple is another brand that went through a really, really difficult 2007, 2008 period. But if you look at what got them through it, what it actually was, it was the release of the iPhone. So the iPhone 3G was the differentiating factor between Apple's really surviving and dying during that period of time. You see, what they had built their business on to this point, they were selling around about 21 million iPods in kind of 2006 sort of time. And the iPhone came through, and during 2007, the sales of the iPhone doubled. You see, what they did was they innovated on the products, right? They innovated what they did. They amplified it through advertising. And what it said in this report I was reading, that what they did was they pushed a necessity purchase rather than a nice to have purchase. You see, an iPod is nice to have, but a mobile phone is something that you need to have. And all they did was they changed their marketing from pushing iPods to pushing iPhones. And that's really what brought them through the other side of the recession. Now, these things, a lot of you could say, okay, Pete, these are big tech giants. What can we learn from this? I understand, but to understand how to manage an SME, you really have to understand the thought process of these bigger brands. Like, what is going through their head right now? What is going through their decision-making to make sure that we as SME business owners can make great decisions as well? Amazon. So everyone knows Amazon started as like a little bookshop online, nothing too crazy. But during 2007, it was the Kindle that got them through the recession. The Kindle was the #1 gift for 2007 Christmas, 2008 Christmas. Now, what they decided to do was when advertising, this is the most important thing I want you to understand from these 3 examples, when brands started reducing their advertising spend because of the recession, they're like, we're spending less, we're pulling back. Amazon attacked. Amazon were pretty much the main bidder on every single purchasing search on Google. So someone went onto Google and typed in, I don't know, buy a book or whatever in Google search, an Amazon advert would keep appearing at the top at all times. They were making sure that if you were buying online, you would land on Amazon. Now at the time, everyone's pulling back their advertising spend. And the way advertising works is it works like an auction. The more people that are using it, the price obviously goes up, supply and demand. The less people that are using it, the price comes down. So if people are pulling back and Amazon's still spending, they're getting more clicks, they're getting more customers for a lower cost per click. Now, what it actually did, if you look at Amazon and what they've actually got now is Amazon, as it stands, the last report I read, has 52% of the e-commerce market in America, which means out of every 100 people that are buying a product on the internet, 52 are buying it from Amazon. And what they did in 2007, 2008 was they actually changed the mentality of the consumer. They changed their mentality. Rather than going to Google and buying your product, you now decide to go to Amazon to buy your product. They owned the online space by being offensive in a scenario where everyone was being regressive. And I think that really is a huge, huge lesson for these times is, you know, I'm a big fan of Warren Buffett, you know, and he always says, you know, when others are fearful, you know, go on the offense. And when everyone's on the offense, be fearful, right? So I'm a real big believer in kind of how that works, in a sense. And I think everyone should too. One of the things I want to go into here is what you're going to do now to attack, right? What you're going to do to keep moving forward. So Craig's asked the question, good question actually. So is there a reason Amazon have pulled their advertising spend this time around if they saw massive growth previously? Absolutely. Amazon has the natural pull now of the e-commerce consumer. They don't need to spend money on their outbound advertising anymore, because if they look at the data right now, they can see that everyone's going to Amazon. Amazon has the greatest infrastructure in the market when it comes to delivery, right? And you know, if you go and buy a brand now, really good example. I went to Holland and Barrow to buy some vitamins, etc. They've got a 10 to 15 day delivery time. You see, Amazon built their brand first and foremost on selling books. Then they built their brand on being the place to go to buy products. But now their brand is first and foremost in delivery. Their infrastructure for delivery is second to none. So people know that when everyone else's delivery networks are down, Amazon flies through. And the other reason they've actually pulled their spend back at the moment, if you read the reports, is they're struggling with staff numbers to be able to fulfill the demand at the moment. They're looking, I think I read 20,000 more staff they need to keep demand high, but keep the questions coming, it's a good question. So if we've chosen to attack, right, if we've chosen to push forward in this market, we've got two options that can really push things forward. We've got two options. The first one is innovation, and the second one is marketing. Now, if we're thinking about innovation, the areas of innovation would be things like Netflix releasing their online equivalent. If we're looking at marketing, it would be Amazon attacking the space. So I want to give a few examples of what I'm thinking and where I see this going. So let's look at innovation to start with. With innovation, let's look at a consumer-facing brand. Let's choose a restaurant as a really good example. So one of my friends owns a restaurant, Brown's Pie Shop up in Steep Hill, and he literally called me up one day and just said, "Look, Pete, we've been shut down by, you know, lockdowns happened. I can't sell anything, but we can do delivery," he said. Now, I said to him, I said, "You've got two real options here. And first and foremost, it gets really straight. I've been telling Danny at Brown's to use Deliveroo or Uber Eats for probably the last 2 years. It was very, very obvious to me that for his brands and for most restaurants out there to get into the mindset of a different consumer, really the millennial, they're going to have to stop using these delivery apps. And, you know, it's almost normal for me as a 26-year-old that I go to Uber, I go to Deliveroo, and I just order my food, right? I don't really think about anything further than that. I just order through Deliveroo. And I told him 2 years ago, "Get this done, Danny, it'll help you out, help you out." And he goes, "Look, Pete, I'm busy enough as it is right now. You know, my shop's full, etc. I don't need delivery." Well, now 2 years later, you know, we're in lockdown, and now, you know, nothing's happening on his shop floor. This is the time right now, if you're a consumer-facing business, a restaurant, something that's in lockdown, to try the thing you want to do, to try something that's going to push your brand slightly further forward. If I was a restaurant right now, I would do two things. The first thing I do would get on the delivery apps straight away. I wouldn't start worrying about how I'm going to deliver the food. I'm going to get Deliveroo, Uber Eats, someone of that ilk to deliver it for me, because that puts it out of mind. At least I'm now selling product. The second thing I would do is I would create what's called a dark kitchen. Now, a dark kitchen is essentially a large restaurant with no seats. So it's essentially a massive, massive kitchen where people just make food, push it out, make food, push it out. And I said to him, I said, "You right now, you could create a noodle bar, right? You could just create a noodle bar right now and call it Pete's Noodles, start selling it on Deliveroo, and understand whether the market actually wants a noodle bar. You could start a chicken shop right now and call it Sam's Chicken, and just start selling chicken right now. You don't have to sit in what you know, right? At the moment, you've got all these consumers who want food delivered to them on Deliveroo. Let's see what they want." And if you do that, you may come out the other side of this whole coronavirus thing with a whole new opportunity of the different food trends people want and the different types of food they want, as well as finding a whole new way of delivering your food. So I really believe from the bottom of my heart, and I'm happy to take any question on if you've got some weird niche, from the bottom of my heart, I really believe that no matter how bad this situation is for you right now, there is a way of innovating through this chaos. There is a way of coming out of this on the other side with a better business and even a different business. I mean, if we think about Danny's example of a restaurant, you know, he really could open a whole delivery section right now. So when lockdown is over, he's got this other business running on the side. He's got nothing to really worry about there. Got a few questions coming in, so I'm just going to jump in. Peter, this is really interesting, but I've been around, so I will teach you. Okay, cool. Okay, so here you go. So I've got a good question from Stephen Jones, who says, he says, I've been often told to spend 10 to 15% of marketing budget to do something right now. Would you stick to that or spend more budget right now? First and foremost, it really depends what you're doing. I'll give you a really good example of what we're doing right now. Our advertising budget at Distract has increased by 90%. That's 90%. And the reason we've done that is I really believe that right now people are all over the internet for a start, because no one can go out. You know, your billboard advertising budget is pretty much shot right now. People on their phones, they're on the digital space, and it's a perfect time. You've got more time as a business owner, right? So you can try these new things. So we've increased our advertising spend to get more inquiries in, see what's happening with the market, fill the pipeline. And we've also invested in other brands because I believe that now's the right time to get all that sort of pre-stuff done. So I think, you know, I don't know the business idea, Steve, and I'm happy to have a call with you afterwards and discuss it further. But if you can afford it right now, advertising is cheaper. I would be spending more money. And Tony said the best thing to do is to test markets. 100%. The best thing right now is 100% to test markets. Example would be this. I've wanted to do a series of webinars for a very, very long time. I really haven't had the time to create a webinar series because we've just been busy, right? And what I've decided to do during this lockdown period is I've written a book, I've created a webinar series, and I've started another business. That's in the last, 5 weeks? What I'm finding is it's really, like, there's no distractions, right? You can just get things done really quickly. And by being at home, you know, I love my team to death, but, you know, I'll be pulled in all sorts of directions when I'm in the office, right? But now's the time where you can focus. So I am all about testing new markets right now. I'm all about trying new things. I really believe that we can come out of this, if we innovate right, in a much better place. Keep the questions coming. I'll keep jumping back in. So, you know, a lot of people on this, I kind of did a bit of research and due diligence before this. A lot of you are service providers. The one thing I'll say is this, and I say this quite blasé, but please bear with me. 10 weeks ago, if I was to have a meeting with, and I'm going to be niche on this, but don't take it the wrong way. If I was to have a meeting with a 65-year-old male managing director, and I said to him, can we have a Zoom meeting? The answer would have been no. The answer would have been, what Zoom? The answer would have been, why can't we meet in person? The answer would have been, a phone call will do, right? That would have honestly been the answer. But right now, I've got the equivalent of that saying, Pete, can I jump on a Zoom call? The whole mindset has changed of the business owner. The whole mindset has completely changed. I want you to start looking at your business in a whole new light. What I really believe has happened right now, and I really mean this, is I believe we're going through the second digitalization of the world. I believe we're going through the second period of digital transformation. You know, the first one was back in the 2000s, you know, all these tech businesses coming through, internet was a thing. I believe we're going through the second wave of that now, where people are starting to realize that they can work from home. They can have all their meetings on Zoom. They can sign through everything through DocuSign. They don't even need to meet anyone anymore. You know, we've literally, I mean, I don't mean to say these things for any other reason than so you understand where I'm at. We've just invested in a company. 2 days ago, the meeting was, shall we invest in this company? 2 days later, everything's signed for. Because we could have meetings through Zoom at a drop of a hat. There was no driving an hour there to see them, drive back, let's leave it 2 weeks till we see you again. It was like bang, bang, bang. So if we can maximize the level of technology we're using right now through innovation, we'll be on a whole new way. So really break down your business and start asking questions of, like, why are we doing this? Like I'm genuinely in the position right now where I'm going, why should I have a new business meeting face to face? Like, it's an hour there, it's an hour back, it's an hour meeting, of which in that meeting, 15 minutes is pleasantries, 15 minutes is me slowly moving the meeting away to a goodbye, right? So I've wasted 3 hours for a half an hour meeting. Whereas with a Zoom call, I've got half an hour meeting. The same gets done. So I really think we should be breaking down our business sections down each by bit, because there is so much time we're wasting right now and so much opportunity right now. It's kind of crazy. Some more questions coming in from Sarah. Pete, we're a freight forwarding company helping businesses import and export their goods from the US. We're planning a big marketing push right now where we suggest we invest in marketing spend. The number one thing right now, if you can't do much, is what we call top of funnel content. Top of funnel content is all we're doing at Distract at the moment for ourselves. I'm not trying to close anyone. I'm not trying to get them to sign a pen and paper. I just want that individual to see us, hear us, like what we say. Now, top of funnel content comes in many different forms. This is top of funnel content. This is me speaking to you, giving you value, hopefully coming across as a reasonable chat. Top of funnel content. Other examples would be PR, podcasting, video content. That's all top of funnel. Now, a nice strategy that I've seen, which kind of brings top of funnel in with actually lead generation, is been ebook downloads or webinar signups. Two ways that works. For example, you could create an ebook saying 20 things you need to understand before you do X, related to your industry. Put that ebook on LinkedIn. You can target literally the exact person you want. So you could, I mean, I don't know your exact buyer, but I'm going to make it one for marketing. I could target a marketing director with a business with over 100 staff, et cetera, et cetera. I can really niche it down. So the only people that are seeing that is my perfect target audience. Then when they click on it, they download it. I get their phone number, their name, their company name, et cetera. That comes to me in my CRM system. I can do one of two things. I can either call them up and say, you know, thanks, Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed the ebook. Let me know if I can help. Or second thing, which is what we're doing, is put them through a email sequence. So maybe over the next 3 days, they receive another bit of insight. Maybe 2 days later, they receive a podcast. Maybe 2 days after that, they receive something else. So you're nurturing that person through the process. What a lot of marketing and advertising people are doing is sell, 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 sell. And I understand that procedure, but I really, really believe in nurturing your prospects. I really personally believe that branding and brand is the number one game. You know, why do you choose who you choose? Why are you with the bank you're with? There'll be a branding reason behind that, because a bank's a bank, right? There'll be a reason you're with a particular bank. And that's the same with everything. It's the same reason when you're your accountant. It's the same with everything. Brand has a bigger pull than people even realize. So hopefully that answers your question, Sarah. Aisha, do you provide any tutorials on Google AdWords and Google Analytics? What I would say, and this is, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, when people start with us doing the Google ads or Facebook ads, the first thing we do, because you can't take someone from who knows nothing to knowing a lot, right? You have to kind of bring them in gradually. The first thing that we do is we give them a Udemy course, which sounds ridiculous, right, for an agency, but we give them a Udemy course and say, look, do this Udemy course. At least then we know where you're at. You've understood the basics. There's no point me teaching you how to suck sweets, right? I want you to get to a certain point before I even bother putting any resources onto you. So we basically give them a Udemy course, which is a short Udemy course. It's about 25 quid. It's not much at all, but it gets you to a standard which you can then build on. And I say to any marketing manager or marketing director out there, you know, you should be understanding the basics of this stuff, even if you have an agency, because you have to be able to call people out on things. So understanding the basics is really important. So what I'll say to that is just message me after, and I'll send you the link, and then literally you can go and you go buy it yourself, do it yourself. But it's a really good course, and I recommend it to everyone. Right. So yeah. Now the other thing that mentioning when it comes to marketing, we spoke a lot there about innovation through coming up with new products, new systems, and you know, if in 2020 you can't think of one way to innovate your business, then I'm concerned for you, because you know you can innovate it to the nth degree. I mean, I have always been proud on saying that we're a really innovative firm, and we really look at things in a new and unique way, and we found ways to innovate through this chaos. You know, a good example of this, and let me know if you don't want this to happen, but I've created a new email bulletin, which every week will send out hints and tips about what I'm finding in the market, right at the coalface, you know, what the guys are seeing with the marketing world. And if you guys want, I'm happy to add you to that and send it out once a week. But it goes into things like what's currently happening with marketing right now. What am I seeing from my clients? What's the worries and concerns? What's happening with the economic outlook from innovation? How can we get around that? And it really goes into lots of detail. So I can give you all that away. That's no problem at all. But one of the things I want you to all look at when it comes to marketing is how do we optimize the spend? Because, you know, we can sit there and say spend more, and I absolutely think people should spend more, but with an asterisk, right? And the asterisk is this: only if it meets your objectives. You know, we can spend more and spend more and spend more, but if it's not hitting any of our key performance indicators and our objectives, then it literally is money down the drain. So I wanted to go and show you this, and these are kind of 3 areas that I recommend everyone tracks and traces. Your leads, where are your leads coming from? Your sales, where your sales are coming from, and what messaging and activity is creating awareness. Now, the reason I say this is because when times get hard, it's really easy to decide what we want to do. So, and what I mean by that is we've been tracking this stuff for a while for ourselves. I know where all these things come from. So when times get hard, I know, right, no one's going to buy anything from this right now. So I'm going to sack off the sales aspect of marketing. I'm going to change how I do the leads, because I know where I bring my leads through, but I'm going to go all in on awareness. And because we've got all this tracking, it's really easy to move and diverse. And what I mean by this is that often people do marketing in 2 ways. They'll either do marketing when they need the leads, right? But when they don't need the leads, they won't do any marketing. But the best time to market yourself is when times are good. I have a saying that I say to Brad, and my accountant rings the same tune, is if you run your business, and this is I guess a business tip, but it kind of links them the same. If you run your business like it's struggling all the time, when it's struggling, it'll be easy. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're keeping an eye on your costs all the time, you're making sure your costs are there, you're all in line, you're not spending too much on this, spending too much on this. When you actually need to be checking your costs, they're already checked, they're already in place. And I mean the same when it comes to marketing. If you're already tracking where your leads come from, your awareness comes from, where your sales come from, which marketing channels, is it Google ads or LinkedIn ads, what's pulling it all in for you? If you can track that, then you can understand really quickly when you need to, right, turn that off, put that on. Really quickly, there's no guesswork anymore because you've already been doing it for you. And the question I really have for you is, you know, where have you been spending your money on advertising for the last 5-10 years? That's the big question I have, because if you haven't moved to digital, the big question is why not? I think what we're about to go through over the next few years is, I mean, I'm going to put a little thing out there. I actually don't think this coronavirus thing is ever going to end. I think it'll get better, but I think the psychology aspect of things with the consumer, they'll be concerned for a long time. And what I mean by that is, we've been told to stay in our houses and hide from this thing. So when the doors open, do you really think that everyone who's been told to lock in and sit inside for 7 or 8 weeks is going to run to the cinema and run to the theatre and run to the restaurants? Well, they've been told to not do that for so long, right? So I really believe it's going to be a lag time in things coming back to normal. So I really want you to start thinking about how you can progress your business in a digital-only world. Because I think, you know, they've talked about the big bounce is going to happen after this, and I really hope it does. I think there will be a bounce, but it's not going to be a bounce back to before. You know, we're living in forever a post-coronavirus time. It will never be the same as it was before. The habits will have changed, people will have changed, everything will have changed, right? So I just want you to be very aware. If you're waiting for it to come back to how it was, I genuinely don't believe it will. And I think we have to start adapting to times right now. One thing that everyone has to do right now is have a solid ground-proof CRM system, because I think that this is the time you need it more than ever. Some real good examples: everyone knows HubSpot, Pipedrive. These are all good ones. Keep, K-E-A-P, is what I'm loving at the moment. It's really good for segmentation. You have to make sure that every piece of data you get on your customers right now is getting stored properly, because we're living in a period of time. You know, the phrase of anyone can run a successful business in the good times, I really believe that. It takes a real kingpin to be able to win during the downtime. So I think that every piece of data you have has to now be stored really, really properly, really correctly, and you have to be able to pull on that data whenever you can. You know, why has this person been through 2 of my forms? Why has he come to this webinar? And then why have they downloaded that ebook? We should be able to track all of that information. And if you are doing that, it'll put you in a very, very strong position to win. And if not, I'd be slightly concerned. Another question from George. would you advise on producing your product locally by manufacturing your goods yourself, or setting up a small manufacturing factory? I mean, George, I actually don't know anything else about business, and I think that is really, really key. You know, how many customers do you have? How long does it take for you to make a garment? What's the cost price of outsourcing that product? I'm a big believer in starting lean when you start a new business. I don't know how new your business is, but there's a theory called the minimum viable product, the lean startup theory, where basically you start a business, start with the lowest cost possible. If you go out and hire loads of people, you go out and spend a fortune, your burn rate will be so high, the pressure on you will be unbelievable, and you'll probably burn out within 6 months. So I really believe in the minimum viable product theory. And if, with that on board, are you getting the orders? Is it cost effective to outsource that, or is it more cost effective to keep it in-house and do it yourself? If you're getting volume through, it might be worthwhile outsourcing that so you can focus more on driving the business forward. But that's a varied question. So if you can just hit up an email, I don't mind jumping on a call after this and just talking through what I would do, but I need a bit more information on that one, mate. This was one of my favorite posts I saw after Corona kicked off. And the reason it was is I've been following Miles Shaw for a while. He owns the Grimsby Carpet Warehouse, which is literally what it says on the tin. It's a carpet warehouse in Grimsby. And it's been a big carpet store in Grimsby. Everyone goes there to buy their carpets, and Corona kicked off, right? And obviously everyone got locked down, and he put this post out straight away. And I'll read it to you. For the past 10 years, I've been working all hours that God sent me to build a successful online business to run alongside our retail business. I've sacrificed seeing my wife, my kids, my family, my friends, whilst I've been working 16 hours a day, pretty much 5 or 6 days a week. It's been really tough. 10 years of my mind at times has been frazzled. I've never really known what the purpose of it was until now. What he's done is he's moved, 10 years ago, he saw this internet thing was coming or was here. He maybe listened to some advice. He built an online e-commerce store. He then sold his carpet runners, it was called, Carpet Runners UK. It's now called Run Rug. He then sold them through the e-commerce, and he's now doing perfectly fine. He's selling online. And the reason I bring this up, and I want you to understand, when I say these things, I'm not saying to criticize anyone or to measure. I want you to understand my mindset on these things. In January, 14th of January, I sent this email. A prospect came to me that ran a carpet store in the UK, and they wanted us to promote through Facebook ads footfall, get people into the stores. And I basically replied with this. I said, hope all is well. I think to make sure that you're moving forward as a brand, we need to look at a more wider strategy and encompass more of a holistic approach around the brand. I've been to the site, and there are some key tweaks that need to be adapted to push this business forward. I understand in reality you want to drive footfall, but we all know that the high street has had its worst year ever. Look, I'm not sitting here trying to preach to this guy. I'm just telling him straight. The high street really is on its knees. You should probably want to start innovating. On the site, you don't push carpets or flooring, and I basically put some examples of people that do. Is this something you could do? Bottom paragraph. But like I said, I think you need to be looking at a larger change across the board to make sure the other brands aren't gaining market share by utilizing digital offering. What I'm basically saying to him here is, you can put your marketing right now into driving footfall, but I genuinely don't believe it's the best move for you. It's best thing to do is digital, sell through online. I gave him some examples. He said, thanks Pete for your advice, I just want to drive footfall. Obviously we're not working together. But I really hope he took my advice. I really hope he pushed online. I really hope he built the e-commerce. I really hope. Because right now, in April, going into May, we're on lockdown. No one's going and walking in and buying his carpets. And that's what, and we can all have hindsight and say, look, this is the right decision, this is the right decision. But this is proven, the decision now. And people like myself and other people have been saying over and over again, for 10 years maybe, you need to be doing online first. You need to be e-commerce first. You need to be e-commerce first. And the high street is a very difficult place to be right now with rates, etc. So make sure you're diversifying, guys. This Corona thing will kill a lot of businesses, and a lot of them could have been saved if they just pivoted what they were doing. I really believe that. Tony Smith, CRM, have you set up any particular reports to pull out key info as suggested? Yes, I've got the key one for me is people coming back to the site. So how often they're coming back to the site, what channel that they drove through. For example, if someone came through Google advertising on a phrase, PPC agency in Lincoln, and they keep returning back to the site over and over again, that person is really, really targeted and really intentful. And then what I could do is I could show them an advert for an ebook, or I could show them another video or whatever, to try and convert them over the line. But the idea there is if someone's been to your site 3 or 4 times, they're more likely to want to buy from you. So you're more likely to show them an advert that will close. If someone's been once and bounced out, it's irrelevant. You want to see people's intent through their path. That's the most important thing. This was a report that one of our account managers found for me. And this is the sort of stuff I want you to understand. So in July, I'm going to use America as an example because it's really easy to see in that dark grey line at the top. The CPM of advertising on Facebook, and what CPM means, it means cost per milli, or cost per 1,000 impressions. So how much it costs you to get 1,000 impressions on Facebook. And in July last year, it was £12.76. And as of April this year, it was £5.83. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's a lot cheaper than £12.76. And what's basically happened there is people have pulled their advertising spend from Facebook, and they've pulled their way. They've maybe gone to more safe havens where they convert the lead, which is fine. But what it means is if you want to try something new right now, it's cheaper to try it on Facebook than ever before. Because if the market recovers, who knows, it may or may not, I don't know, we could be back at the £12.76 again, which means it's much more cost effective to bring in the market. So that's just something that I thought was worth looking at. I thought it was an interesting statistic, and I thought I'd throw it on here. This is also, from the book, The Slight Edge. And I'm a massive believer in reading and learning as we go. And the theory of the slight edge essentially is if you improve yourself every day by 1%, that could be your marketing, could be your conversion rate, it could be anything. If you improve anything by 1% every single day, in 365 days, it'll be 37.78 times as good as it was originally. That, for me, is a statistic we should be looking at. And that's why you should be looking at your numbers. That's why you should be looking at your marketing channels. That's why you should be aggressively working right now. And I really believe from the bottom of my heart that there'll be a lot of people within your industry that are just putting their feet up right now. And if you want to get a good advantage, the way I've described this to my team is I want to be at the 50-meter mark down the 100-meter track while everyone else is tying their shoelaces. I really believe that we have an opportunity right now, which is once in a generation, once in a lifetime. We have the ability to push ourselves further than we've ever had before. And it's really down to you as an individual, whether or not you take this opportunity. And that is the reality of the whole situation. What I'm just going to do now, I'm bringing up some questions. Let's get these through. Heather says, I have to leave now. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate you coming on. Okay, so Craig, nice to see you again, Craig, mate. Craig said, because this data is based on all industries, how do you know it's actually cheaper for your product or industry? The reality is we have to run on an average across the board for data pools. It might be worthwhile speaking to ourselves, and we can tell you the exact CPMs that are coming out of your industry. So for example, if someone kind of got in touch with us and said, look, Pete, I want to sell for my accountancy practice, we could go into Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, and we can pull out the actual real numbers. And we can say, look, if you're advertising on Facebook right now, it's going to cost you X pounds. So once you get, the generic broad scope is it's cheaper to advertise right now. But there may be examples, you're correct in what you're saying, where it might be slightly more expensive. But best thing to do when it comes to anything with specifics is just get in touch, guys. Just get in touch with us, and I can pull off the numbers or get one of the teams to do it for you. But yeah, I appreciate that, mate. If there's any other questions, guys, fling them through. We've had 16 questions come through, which is great. The way this is really going to work now, moving forward over the next few sessions, is that was really a broad scope of where I really believe the market is right now, where I really believe the attention should be. But reality is, this all changes. This is all going to change as we move forward. This is the ever-changing landscape right now. And one of the things that is worth mentioning is the fact that when it comes to advertising, every day is different. So next week is with Tom Jacobs, our head of advertising. He's going to be talking about where you should be putting your money, where you should be putting your pounds and pence. Some examples of where we've done it with our clients, how some of our clients have been spending less, how some of our clients are spending more. We're really open book with what we're thinking right now. And then on the week after that, it's with, like I said, with Mike Shields, our head of PR, talking about what you can really do to get some free coverage out there. And these guys, they handle a lot of accounts themselves, a lot of clients themselves, obviously run each department. So they're really switched on with what they know. I always say that I've got the holistic approach, but when it comes to the real nitty gritty, these guys are truly great at what they do. Thanks, Glenn. I really appreciate you coming along. What I'm also going to do, guys, and please just message me if you don't want this to happen, but I've got I've put together a coronavirus bulletin of what I think is happening. I'm gonna fling that out to you all if that's okay with you lot. If not, just let me know. But I think there's some helpful stuff in there that may help you. Matt, the content will be able to download? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to send these across to the guys at the productivity program after each recording. Now, let me just get this straight. I think this is recorded well. Like I said, it's the first time round. Hopefully, it's worked for everyone. But yeah, Matt, I'll try and get that all done for you, mate. David, are you focusing your marketing on sectors that you think will emerge from COVID-19, or all sectors? What I'm doing right now, David, I'll be honest, I'm really open with these things, is I built a whole plan for charities. The reason we've got huge success plan for charities, and one of the areas that charities need to focus on is they have a $10,000 a month grant they can get from Google. And there's a lot of charities that aren't doing that. So I'm basically reaching out to charities and saying, look, just get $10,000 for free for charities, and then walking away and supporting them. The other markets that I think are going to emerge on the back of this is markets that never really needed to be physical. You know, for clarity, the business we just invested in 2 days ago is a technology mortgage brokerage. Traditionally, a lot of mortgage companies, you'd have to go and meet the guy in a grey suit. You'd sign the paperwork. You know, a week later he comes back. That's not required in 2020. You know, we can do mortgages through technology. We can do it through Zoom. It's not required anymore. So I think the emerging markets, the ones where people have realised, look, we don't need to put in all that face-to-face handshaking. All this can be done virtually or through DocuSign, or these different virtual means. So I think if you're looking at emerging markets, for me, it's going to be the ones that don't need the interaction. I genuinely believe that this isn't going to go away. You know, I genuinely believe that consumers will be worried about shaking hands and walking into a close environment for a long, long time. And the people that are in the vulnerable categories, even more so. So I think that if we assume things will be back to normal, it's just not going to happen. You know, restaurants need to be doing delivery. I spoke to Lincoln Big last week, and I said that Lincoln Big need to employ a delivery service for their restaurants. You know, where they basically hire a couple of guys on a bike, let's be honest, and all the restaurants chip in. And now there's a cyclist for all of those on behalf of Lincoln Big. That needs to happen, because otherwise the restaurants could struggle. And then we're going to have a high street without restaurants. So there's a lot to be gone into, but the emerging markets are obviously the ones that aren't going to have face-to-face and contact. I'm not going to have our team going back to the office until really necessary. And to be honest with you, from what I've seen and what we've done, I think we're performing better from home because there's no interactions and there's no distractions. You know, there's no, you know, such and such said something to such and such, and now she's in the conversation. Now I'm in the conversation. There's none of that anymore. So I think that there's massive benefits for that. I think you do lose some elements, but you know, there's arguments to be said. I mean, I read a report that said there's a company in America who spends $10 million a year on his office rent, and he's really don't need it no more. Doesn't need it. So I'm sure he can be $10 million richer every year. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a massive, massive change we're going through, and people just have to think bigger. You know, there's so much opportunity right now. I think that my biggest worry for the UK economy is when furlough stops. Now, thankfully, we've not furloughed anyone. I just didn't want to go down that route. We've had taken a hit, of course we have, but I think that keeping the team together during a difficult time says a lot, and I wanted to do that. But when furlough stops, there'll be a lot of businesses that just can't afford to keep their staff, and then we're in a real crisis, real recession. So there's loads to keep an eye on. This is why I've done that bulletin. I just want to make sure that all this stuff's kind of coming out to you at all times, because this world's moving so fast. You know, we just have to make sure we're on it. So thanks, David. Appreciate that. Going through these. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Tony. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate that, mate. So yeah, unless any other questions, guys, that's we've been going for a while, an hour or so. I really, really appreciate you coming by. I'm going to fling across that bulletin to everyone who hasn't told me otherwise. So hopefully that helps you out. Any questions, hit me up. I really mean that. It's peter.watson@distract.co.uk. Ask me any questions. I'm really being open and transparent with all these things. So yeah, I really appreciate it. There's no charge for these things. We're in the middle of a corona pandemic. So have me a question, I'll help you out. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate you stopping by. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. So yeah, I guess that's it, right? Thanks, David. Really appreciate it. I don't know what else to say, Charlie. So I'm just going to do we just wrap up now?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, it's great. Yeah, you did really well and had a great audience and got really good questions from everybody. So I think, yeah, it went really well.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone
Cool.
for being kind to the technology we're trying out, but this is what it's all about, right?
I know. So I think you got to stop recording. So I don't know how we'll get that, but we'll figure it out, won't we?
Just a quick one, Helen. The one thing I want you to be, this is one thing really important actually, I thought to cover, and Tom will definitely go into this in the next section, is follow accounts are irrelevant right now. Organic reach on social is pretty poor apart from like TikTok. But Tom will go into that in more detail next week, so he'll definitely cover that. So yeah, good question. Cool. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to hit stop on this.